Coming to you from behind the craziest socialist lines of the Pacific Northwest, local and national news, talk, and opinions, this is the Behind the Line podcast.
More fallout from the state vaccine mandates. The Department of Corrections, which runs all the state prisons in the state of Washington, has lost at least 350 DOC officers, medical staff, kitchen staff, just whatever, whoever, anybody. And according to the head of the Department of Corrections, this will not cause any safety issues. And Department of Corrections was already having staffing problems. They were short-staffed due to open positions and because of COVID, because of having to quarantine officers so frequently when they were exposed to COVID. So you're already short-staffed, and now you've fired an additional 350 people, and this isn't going to create a safety issue. She said that these shifts will be covered with overtime or whatever, and I'm sorry, but even if you can cover those shifts with overtime, making officers work doubles, work their days off all the time and everything else, that is a safety issue in itself. You can't have some guy that's exhausted or woman exhausted working as a prison guard. That is an extremely dangerous job, and you need to be on high alert all the time. You can't be completely exhausted because you've been working every day or double shifts or whatever. I have a relative that works at a federal prison, and it's like that there, constant overtime, double shifts, working on days off. He's always getting called in. It's not a good situation when you are guarding dangerous people, because people who have nothing to lose are always looking for that opportunity for you to slip up. I worked, when I was a police officer, I worked part-time at a juvenile prison run by the state. And what a joke that was. There was a couple of us there that were police officers, and then everybody else was just, a state employee that went through some bad training and then was, basically made into a prison guard. And, a lot of times when I'd work nights, it would just be me and one other guy who had no law enforcement background or anything. He was just a state employee, and he'd sleep. He'd go to sleep. And it's just not, I'm not saying that happens at the prisons, because I think, the adult prisons, I think that is a different kind of person that works in those types of facilities. But it's just typical of the way the state of Washington runs things. Everything is sort of half-ass and, poor training. You never have what you need. You're overworked. They can never find employees because they don't pay. And the employees they do find oftentimes are just, if you've ever dealt with the state for anything, you know what kind of employees they are. And so I just think it's a joke that the head of DOC can get up there and say that this isn't going to cause any problems. And the State Patrol, I'm going to get back on that. They're saying that that's not going to cause any issues either, losing 175 employees, 70 some odd troopers off the road. I can tell you that I drive 90 miles one way every day for work. And for the last 2 or 3 days now, I have not seen a single trooper on the freeway going to work or coming home from work. And that is extremely unusual. I always see troopers. Haven't seen a single one. So you can't tell me for 1 second that this isn't having an impact and that it's not going to have a lasting impact. Those trooper positions will not be refilled quickly. And speaking of being refilled, the DOC head said that she was working to fill the positions that were open now. Well, again, those are not positions that can be filled today or tomorrow or next week or next month. To get hired as a DOC officer, you have to go through a lengthy testing process. And once you're done with that, and we're talking, a couple months minimum, probably longer than that, the way the state runs things. Because you're talking about written exams, physical agility exams, psychological exams, and interviews. That's not going to happen lickety-split. And then if they somehow magically get through all that, then they have to go to Corrections Academy, which I believe is 3 or 4 months. It's not as long as the Police Officers Academy, but it is 3 or 4 months. So there's 3 or 4 more months. And then once they finish that, there's going to be some level of on-the-job training that they have to complete. So they can't work alone for probably a few more months. So, realistically, to fill those vacancies for corrections officers, you're looking at, if they started today on the hiring process, you're probably looking at least a year before those people are on their own and good to go. Safely, anyway. If the state decided to cut their training down or something to get people out there, then, that's one thing. Maybe hiring some laterals, but I don't know who in their right mind would lateral from another state to Washington to work for the DOC. And even if they did that, there would still be testing and levels of on-the-job training that would have to be done. And depending on if our state would accept the out-of-state training that person's had, they may have to go to the Corrections Academy as well here. Because Washington just does its own thing when it comes to everything. They don't accept training from other states quite often for many jobs. Because, everything's better here. Everybody here knows better than everybody else in the country. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Behind the Line podcast at behindthelinepodcast.com. If you liked this, I hope you will like, share, and subscribe to our channel. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook at Behind the Line WA. You can find us on Twitter at Behind WA. You can also find us on Telegram and LinkedIn at Behind the Line. And I'm on Rumble. Thanks again for listening, and I appreciate your support.